The idea of integrating African countries and regions has long been promoted by political leaders, even though only limited results have been seen on the ground. The record of regional integration in Africa so far has been modest and characterized by uncoordinated initiatives coupled with low levels of intra-regional trade, among other setbacks that make the problem even worse. Even if there is a marked disparity between regions and countries, there now has been relatively better move towards integration by African nations, the regional economic communities being the major driving forces. Characterized by great economic opportunities observed in recent years, the East African region is heading towards an impressive integration journey, even though the pace is uncoordinated, as some of the countries have to deal with peace and other issues that come prior to economic inquiries.
The emergence of the East Africa region as the strongest growth hub in the African continent is further attracting potential partners in investment and trade to the region. In addition to that, the East Africa region is also very close to the Gulf economies. As we know, Gulf economies, as part of their diversification and reorientation drive, could also provide another impetus for the trade and investment dynamics existing between East Africa and the Middle East.
The kind of integration that we see in the Horn of Africa is very dependent on the kind of peace that prevails in this region. Of course, now that the Red Sea has become a contested arena, with Yemen being flooded with armies from the Gulf, this is going to also impact on any possibility of meaningful integration in this region.
The economic integration that Ethiopia and Djibouti are forging has been cited as model for the aspired regional integration in East Africa at the Regional Integration and Private Investment in Infrastructure Forum recently held in Djibouti.
The relationship between Djibouti and Ethiopia is just phenomenal because of the kind of integration that's happening. Power provision, water provision, port facilities provision.
Regional integration, the best that we know is Djibouti and Ethiopia, because we have got interconnection of electricity, we have the railway, we have the port that we are developing for Ethiopia's and other landlocked countries.
Speaking of economic integration requirements, including enhanced trade among countries, more roads and other infrastructure and reform of institutions have to take effect for the Africa's integration ambition to be achieved.
So the more we can think together rather than have the silo mentality where each silo is not speaking to the other silo, the better for us. That we are able now to speak as one continent, give one continental position, and let the rest of the world listen to the continent and not an individual country.
States have to improve their economic management to be able to get the capital funds necessary for regional integration, because regional integration is expensive. It takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of energy, and it takes a lot of goodwill from the participants, both the financiers and the recipients in the countries.
Particularly, economic development needs a comprehensive process that requires proactive policy management. Consequently, we have to regularly assess our potentials and our strategies to develop our economies. And most importantly, doing it together, particularly in this Eastern Africa region, is very much pertinent.
two countries have embarked on a number of projects that enhance integration.
We have invested a lot on road infrastructure, both in Ethiopia, linking Djibouti with 3 corridors with Djibouti. We have 3 road links connecting us to Djibouti now, as of now. We are investing on those 3 links, and Djibouti also doing similarly. In addition to that, we have also working together on communication superhighway, in cable network communication, as well as also we have just been in the process of completing the largest transboundary water supply project, which is going to serve Djibouti for the coming 50 and 100 years.
The problem of Ethiopia will be a big problem for Djibouti. The small problem of Ethiopia will be very big problem for Djibouti. The more we see Ethiopian getting much wealthy, the more generating resources and offering opportunity for our young generations.
የኢኮኖሚክ ኢንቴግሬሽኑ የኢኮኖሚ ጠቀሜታ ወይም የኢኮኖሚ ትሩፋት ከመስጠት ባሻገር
Economic integration doesn't only bring economic benefits for the two nations. It helps bolster interaction and bond between the people. The countries would also help reflect a common stand in international forums as well.
Ethiopia and Djibouti have recognized the interdependence of their economic growth before long ago and have already established a win-win partnership. This in turn has helped them to follow a customized approach to cooperate in the matters of common interest. The recently inaugurated Dorali multi-purpose port, which can accommodate a huge amount of incoming and outgoing cargo from Ethiopia, is a proof for the much acclaimed mutual understanding between the two nations.
It's very big investment for a small country like Djibouti, but this has been done to support the economy of Ethiopia and the growth of Ethiopia. So every one of this terminal has been specialized during this in order to offer the most efficient service to the Ethiopian customer. So I would like to explain to you this new facility, DMP, which has been the biggest investment up to now concerning the port. We invested 580 million in this project. It's a game changer because the facility we have here is so different from the facility we have in the old ports. In terms of quay, here we have the equipment of the quay. We invested $72 million in the equipment only. We have 4 gantry cranes plus 12 portal cranes, which is 16 big cranes to handle the cargo, to discharge the cargo from the vessels, which gives this port a rate of discharging or a rate of productivity which is one of the highest in Africa. Instead of the old port, we can only accommodate between 48,000 tons. So we double the capacity of the vessels. So this will allow also the Ethiopian customer to decrease the rate of the freights, because when you charter a biggest vessel, the fees for the cargo will be decreased, of course. For the labor, we have also reorganized the labor. We make them very professional. We give them more training. We want the best standard for them.
The Regional Integration and Private Investment in Infrastructure Forum has recognized Ethiopia's efforts to extend the rail, road and electricity network to Djibouti, Sudan and South Sudan borders, which will have the effect of revamping the partnership of all these countries in regional and international markets.
Built over 70,000 kilometers of all-weather roads connecting with Djibouti, connecting with Kenya and Uganda, connecting with Sudan. There is a railway that's completed now, but new railway agreements have been signed up to South Sudan, Juba, and of course up to the Lamu port. Ethiopia is providing electricity now to Djibouti, Sudan, and Kenya in the next months. We'll be receiving about 1,200 megawatts of electricity from Ethiopia. Ethiopia is developing also 11 industrial cities. The Chinese are building industrial cities literally for agro-processing and for industrial processing, which the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned earlier. His vision for Djibouti is to be an industrial hub.
Sit down as Africans and say, yes, we are making these roads, but let these roads be able to export something that will bring for us money. Let us make sure we incorporate in the issue of local content, but also local capacity development. I think I'm happy with the example of Ethiopia, where they're trying to develop industrial zones, so that at least we have something that is going to use that infrastructure to be able to help us to pay back. Otherwise, we are going to have debts, and one time Africa will be mortgaged and taken away.
If there is no such thing, call it the product, that is moved from one country to another, no matter what infrastructure we're going to build, there won't be any impact. So, for instance, let me take the example of Ethiopia and Djibouti that are really well connected in terms of infrastructure. There is no goods imported. If you look at the statistics, it is really very, very, very minor goods produced in Ethiopia and imported to Djibouti using those infrastructures that are in place. So if we build infrastructure and we don't have this product that will be moved from one country to another, then there's nothing we can, again, talk about. Example, between Uganda and Djibouti, there is no reason the business community can trade between themselves if there is no, again, this product. So if, for example, we start promoting somehow the production, the industrializing, very short, and then we don't have, again, the infrastructure. So I want to mention the interdependence between the industrialization of Africa, moving from this heavy dependence of raw materials and natural resource to industrializing, but also we need to have the infrastructure connecting the two countries. A container imported through Djibouti to Uganda cannot reach Uganda because there is no infrastructure. But if there is infrastructure and there is no product, then there won't be a trade. So this intra-African trade must be addressed from that aspect.
Since we are all starting from a low base, there is a lot of gap to be filled before we can consider the adequacy of economic infrastructure in place. Still, we need to invest more on further consolidating the infrastructure assets of the two countries.
When working in a coordinated manner, countries of the region could attract significant inflow of investment, business development, and foreign tourists, and to speed up the integrated and sustainable development for the good of the people who have lived in harmony for years.
Regional integration for the sake of regional integration has no value unless countries benefit from that regional integration. Already our populations are integrated, as our Ugandan colleague was trying to say earlier. For example, if we see we have Afar in Djibouti, we have Afar in Ethiopia. We have Isa in Djibouti, we have Isa in Ethiopia. We have Nuer in Ethiopia, we have Nuer in South Sudan. It's the same thing with Sudan and Ethiopia. It's the same thing with Turkana and the Borana. These populations are integrated. And as our Ugandan colleague said, somebody drew a line, a border between these communities, which now made them Kenyans and Ethiopians, Djiboutians and Ethiopians, and of course South Sudanese and Ethiopians. They have already integrated, and they use both currencies. For example, if you go to the Kenyan border, they use the Kenyan shilling and the Ethiopian birr. They exchange freely. For them, that line of border doesn't exist anymore. And I think it's important to start our regional integration from these people who already speak the same language, who who are culturally integrated, and who at the same time, by developing these peripheral regions, would be able to have a seamless transition from one country to the other country.
It is understandably difficult for governments to put every penny into huge investments alone, involving the private sector in the development of infrastructure. In this alternative direction, the countries turn their toes.
It's a time that the private sector also participate on the infrastructure that the government was developing. And our president target is the vision of 2035, that the country must be as Singapore.
Ethiopia is currently in the final stages of enacting a public-private partnership regulatory framework with the objective of attracting more private sectors to support investment in infrastructure. Initial focus will be on transport sector, including expressways, railways, airports, and other transport infrastructure, as well as also, most importantly, energy sector, including solar, wind, and hydro.
Under the umbrella of the African Union, there is a commitment from the African people and governments for a better tomorrow. That is why everyone is working to change the old narrative and rewrite Africa's destiny by Africans themselves. Regional integration, therefore, offers significant potential in transforming African economies and bringing about decent lives. The moves taken by Ethiopia and Djibouti will set example for other countries in the region and beyond, especially if they are able to bring a real change in the way their people live.